A couple weeks ago, I made some icons revolving around an adventuring party in a fantasy world. So, I thought why not draw the characters who own these items and put them in a background that we made for last week's video. Today, we're gonna get some much needed practice by drawing 3 small character sprites. Let's jump into it. Hey, my name is Jade, and I like to paint with pixels. My first attempt at drawing this did not go to plan. I started by trying to draw a sort of skeleton of the base character, which I've done in the past when drawing my little figurine for the starter pack no AI trend. So I thought that it would be good to start with that and then adjust for each of the different characters. But for some reason, I really struggled with getting not only the proportions right, but just the pose in general, and it felt very stiff. I think at the time I wasn't sure both what scale I wanted to have them at, but also how I wanted the proportions to be as well. And the more I iterated on it, it just felt like it was getting worse, and I was starting to get frustrated at not drawing what I thought I would be able to draw. I wanted to show these versions of the sprites before we get into the attempts that actually worked, because I think it's important to show that sometimes your first attempt won't be your best, and that's okay. You can try again, you can start completely from scratch, like I did. The first attempt doesn't have to be the final one. It can be really frustrating when you know what you want to draw, but you don't know the best way to go about it. And that was me in this case, and I even decided to take a little break from this and go outside, get some fresh air, hopefully get a new perspective on this. When I got back, I decided to look up some more tutorials on how to draw character sprites. I came across this tutorial by Adam C. Eunice on making character sprites feel more engaging, and I really liked his approach of starting with a really blocky silhouette and then chipping away at that and refining it until you get something that you're happy with. I've been reading a lot about shape language and how that can help with character design, and so I sort of took this approach, but like one step further. So with the paladin, or knight character that I was making, I started with a shape of a shield as the silhouette, because I wanted him to feel quite protective and like a strong frontline character. And I wanted that to be reflected in his overall pose as well. It took quite a few attempts to get the overall silhouette right for the first sprite. Similar to how I work with sub-badges, I wanted to keep track of the iterations that this design went through, so I worked on a canvas that is much bigger than what one individual sprite would be. This is so I could duplicate the current design, make adjustments to it, and then duplicate it again, and sort of iterate on the design while keeping the steps along the way. It's also just nice to see the progression over time, and see what turns from like this blob shape into an actual human character is pretty cool to see, and encouraging considering how we started this project. I can't lie, I was a little bit disheartened with how it started, and felt like it wasn't going to get at a stage where I was happy with it. But it was nice to see the progression and see things sort of come together in the end. My favorite part of this, to no one's shock, was adding in all the details. And breaking up the character into almost 2 halves worked really well and added this nice amount of depth to the pose, so that they weren't standing completely facing forward, but more at an angle. I feel like it helped them feel a bit more like a 3D human. For the archer character, I started with this sort of triangular tree shape, which I think works quite well because it already alludes to this character being in the forest a lot and, hiding within the trees whenever they're in combat. It actually didn't take too long to get an overall shape that I was happy with. And the thing that I actually struggled with the most with this character was picking out the colors. I knew from creating the small 16x16 sprites that I wanted each character to sort of have their own color that is incorporated in their design. So with the paladin, there's a lot of blues in the armor and the shield and the sword. And for the ranger, that was going to be green. I knew that there would be a tiny bit of green on the bow, but I wanted to push this further and add it to the full outfit. I kept going with this idea of green being on the inside of the cloak, but then there was a lot of brown tones that sort of blended in together. When I checked the values on this design, you could see that even the green sort of blended in with a few of the brown tones as well, so I knew I had to make some adjustments. I ended up reversing the cloak, so that the green was on the outside and a darker brown was on the inside. The rest of the outfit was a lot lighter, so there was a good contrast between the two. It also just made a lot of sense from a backstory perspective, because if they're spending a lot of time in the forest, of course greens and browns are going to be very common colours, so they could camouflage really well with their environment. By the time I got to the final character, which was like this fighter barbarian class, I felt like I was in a good flow with this process, and I could try and make the overall starting silhouette a little more complex. So I went for more square, blocky shapes to build out the silhouette. Did the starting shape look like I was gonna make a more aggressive version of a Minecraft Steve? Yeah, it did. But I really liked the design of this character in particular. I think starting with the boxes and trying to maintain those shapes in the head and the pauldron helped give him a bit more of a unique design that I want to try out with other characters in the future as well. I think it became a lot quicker to finalize this design because I was taking small elements from the previous designs and reusing them here. For example, the pose is pretty much the same throughout all of the characters, and the boots were just a bigger version of the ones that I used for the archer. Reusing elements like this not only helped speed up the process, but also made the designs feel quite consistent when put together as well. Along the way, I tried to make sure that I would drop the character into the background that I made last week, just to make sure that both in terms of scale and general design, that they still fit into the environment. The characters at this size feel like they're always a little bit stylized, just because it's such a tiny canvas to work on, but I think this was very useful to do not only at the end, but also along the way as well. With a couple of adjustments, here is the final result. I ended up making some slight adjustments in the actual background by reversing the characters so that they're looking out towards the vista, but I think both versions work quite well here. In comparison to how I was feeling at the start of this project, I'm really happy with the final result. I think they fit into the world quite well, and it ties together both the background and the little sprites that I made quite nicely. I hope you enjoyed the video! If you'd like to see how this project started, check out this video here, where we go through the process of making small 16x16 sprites, and why it's a great place to start if you want to try pixel art yourself. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care out there. Goodbye!